Hello, I am Laren. Welcome to day 2 of 30 Days of Sun, or Sun Salutations. Let's get started. I'll meet you on the mat. So take just a moment to do any fidgeting or adjusting that you need to do, to get settled, to get ready to move a little bit. In my case, got to make sure you can see where we'll be working. Also, for you longer-haired individuals, it sometimes helps to just pull it out of the way, make sure it won't be distracting to you or in your face. But sometimes it feels good to just let your hair hang down, so do whatever works for you. And meet me standing at one end of your mat, facing the rest of the mat, the road ahead, if you will. And from here, we'll come down to hands and knees, or tabletop, as we like to call it. Just like yesterday, let's stack joints. So bring your knees underneath your hips, bring your hands underneath your shoulders. This is a great opportunity to provide extra padding for your knees, especially if your mat is on a very hard surface. I have a blanket handy for this purpose. You can use the same, or you can have a towel. Just take a moment to take care of you. Now preparing to go into child's pose to get centered, I suggest taking your knees just a little farther apart than hips distance and letting your heels come together behind you and bringing your hips back in space. Just kind of settling in. Stretch your hands forward like a puppy that wants to play and just settle in, settle down. If you'd like, you can also stack your hands, stack your palms face down so that you have a little pillow to rest your forehead on. Take this moment to just feel. If you make a little more space in your lap for your belly to expand with the breath, just take your knees a little wider. Begin to notice the quality of your breathing. There's no need to change it just yet. Just notice. Notice your back rising and falling with each inhale and release of an exhale. Let your breath be slow. Breathing in through your nose. Maybe pressing your belly towards the floor, inflating your whole abdomen with the inhale breath. Exhale, maybe opening your mouth to sigh it out. To stay anchored with your breath throughout practice, I invite you to employ a tool called the Ujjayi breath, mentioned yesterday, which is just a soft restriction, for lack of a better word, in the back of your throat. So imagine what it feels like to clean your sunglasses and hold them in front of your mouth and kind of huff air to fog them up so that you can clean them with your shirt. So make kind of a hissing or a whisper in the back of your throat as the air passes through your airways. This slows the breath down. It also warms it up. And some salutations are all about creating warmth in the body. If ever you become too warm, remember that you can open your mouth and exhale to release more heat that way. So take just another moment here in child's pose to decide. If you're here this morning or afternoon or wherever you are in your day, if you're here for softness or for effort. I'll offer variations of the poses that we'll move through. So just decide right now, you can always change your mind if you'd like to opt for softer or more effortful versions of each pose. So still holding on to your Ujjayi breath practice, let's begin to move. Stretch your hands out in front and shift forward, coming onto hands and knees for tabletop again. You might press into your feet to lift your knees and bring them to a more neutral position, letting them be underneath your hips again. Again, bring your hands right under your shoulders, knees are right under hips. Let's move through cat-cow, warming up the spine again. So inhale, drop your belly button towards the floor, creating a soft bend in your low back. Press the floor away with your hands rising out of those firm, supportive points underneath your shoulders, spreading your shoulder blades apart. And just look at the mat in front of you. Maybe press the back of your head toward the ceiling. There's no need to tilt your head back dramatically to try to look in front of you. Reversing that, now ready for an exhale, tuck your tail, round through your low back. Continue to press the floor away with your hands as you arch your back like a Halloween cat. Last but not least, tuck your chin to your chest. Look at your lap. I'll move with your breath, inhaling, shifting your front hip points forward, dropping your belly toward the floor, maybe inflating it as you fill up with air and find cow pose. Exhaling now, tuck your tail round through your back, press the floor away, tuck your chin, find cat pose. A couple more cycles at your pace. Maybe noticing any cracks or pops that take place as your body warms up to movement. Last round, inhale, stretch your belly toward the floor. Imagine scrubbing the mat towards your knees with your hands. Notice that this allows you to sort of draw your heart between your shoulders and elbows, kind of pulling it forward, increasing the stretch sensation in your belly. And exhale, tuck and round. Find cat pose once more. I'll see if you can find a neutral spine, something that resembles flat. Now let's move through bird dog. Press into your right knee and left hand, so much so that maybe your right hand and left foot lift long. Reach both ends from fingertips to toes and place both back on the mat on an exhale. Bird dog on the other side. Inhale, lift your left hand and right foot this time. Taking a moment to find balance. Exhale, everything returns to the mat. Couple more cycles this way. Maybe building a little more warmth and stability with the core. Inhale, right hand, left foot lift. Reach long and exhale them to the mat. Again, other side, left hand, right foot lift. Reach long. Exhale, return to neutral. Once more, right hand, left foot lift. Bird dog. Reach long. Try not to lift your foot too high behind. It's easy to do without noticing. So it's okay to take a moment to check out where you are in space. Return hand and foot to the mat. One more time, left side. Lift your left hand, right foot. Inhale, reach long. Maybe point your toes, flex them on your lifted foot. Exhale, return to the mat. Send your hips down and back for child's pose. Reach your hands long in front of you. Take a moment of rest. Notice how you feel from that movement. So as we prepare to move through Sun Salutation A that we learned on day 1 yesterday, remember that you have these options that we've just warmed up with. If a vinyasa, or the sequence of poses that we're moving through in our Sun Salutation, ever becomes too warm or too challenging, especially if you're here for softness today, remember that you can return to a cycle of cat-cow like that, arching the back in both planes, both forward and behind. Or you can take bird dog if you want kind of a medium option with a little more warmth. So with that in mind, let's take child's pose one more time. Maybe you're still hanging out there. That's great, I'll meet you there. Shift forward onto elbows and forearms. Tuck your toes. Press into feet and hands so much so that your hips lift. Find downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, I'm going to take a moment to move my blanket out of the way and invite you to do the same. Downward facing dog is often referred to as a resting pose because it's a place to sort of be still and refocus and become ready for the next sequence of poses. But make no mistake, there's lots of work being done here. If this ever becomes too much or being upside down is not in your practice today, you can always return to tabletop. You're still doing good work here. This is a supportive quadruped position, and you can practice working towards the strength in the muscles you need to support down dog by sort of playing with hovering your knees or alternating between down dog and tabletop throughout practice as you need to do so. So from your downward facing dog or your tabletop position, walk your hands back to meet your feet, let your hips be high, find a forward fold. Take opposite elbow and opposite hands and just hang out for a moment. Inhale, inflate, fill up. Exhale, let it go. Nod your head yes. Shake your head no. Acknowledge the value in both. Release your hands from your elbows, let them hang. Inhale slowly through your nose. Stand up just as slowly, rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Let your hands hang like a zombie. And as you come to standing, there's no need to rush. Take any adjustments that you need to as you prepare to move from a standing position. Allow me to make a small adjustment here. So from your firm mountain pose, peel your toes up off the mat, spread them wide, and peel them back down. Take a soft bounce in your knees, maybe bring your hands to your hips. Experiment with swaying them from side to side, tipping them forward and back like we did in cat-cow, and find a neutral place. Imagine zipping up a jacket, creating space between your belly button and your sternum. Roll your shoulders up and back, let your chest be broad, maybe turn your palms to face forward. Press your feet into the earth, become a little taller. Imagine a string tied to the top of your head is lifting, making your neck, your spine, your whole self long and tall. Take a breath here. Notice your stability. Notice how good it can feel to stand firmly when you take the time to set yourself up. Let's prepare for Sun Salutation A. Inhale, lift your hands up high overhead. Palms touch as you exhale and dive forward, hinging at your hips. Find forward fold again. Inhale, half lift. Hands come to shins or thighs. Find a flat back, just like you did in tabletop. You do this by paying attention to the arch in your back. Notice that mine flexes forward if my belly moves toward my lap, or I can arch my spine a little, maybe too much, and that somewhere between there is a neutral place. Something to play with. Notice I'm in kind of a number 7, and that there's no requirement that your legs be straight. You can have your knees bent to support tight hamstrings. Let's drop back towards the floor, find forward fold again. Press into your feet, lift your hips any amount, shine the backs of your legs toward the wall behind you. Again, no need to go all the way straight. All bodies move differently. Plant your hands and use them like feet, walking them away from your actual feet. You can pause in downward facing dog here, or if you're here for softness, drop down to your knees, find tabletop. So this is where we begin our vinyasa. So if you're not ready for more effort, just stay here in tabletop and move through your cat-cow pose. Or for slightly more effort, move through bird dog, extending opposite hand and foot, reaching long. This is a great option for a vinyasa cycle. If you're here for a little more effort, join me again in downward facing dog, and we'll move through the vinyasa from here. Shifting forward, find a variation of plank pose. I always have to wiggle my feet out behind me a little more. Again, you have an option to drop your knees for a modified plank pose. I'll take this option today. It's only day 2. We'll work our way up, right? Keep your elbows in close, sink your belly to the mat for chaturanga. Hang out for a breath. Maybe come up onto your fingertips, tenting your hands on either sides of your shoulders. This is so that you're not relying on your hands to do this lift. Coming up for baby cobra, inhale, inflate your belly, pressing it into the floor so much that your chest and shoulders lift and you can look at the mat in front of you. Exhale, peel back down. Inhale, come up for cobra again, this time looking over your right shoulder. Exhale, peel down. Inhale up, look over your left. And exhale, peel down and center. Press into your hands and your hips up and back towards your heels. Find child's pose. On your next breath in, shift forward to your elbows. Tuck your toes. Press into your hands. Make your arms active. Glue your palms, knuckles, and finger pads down so there's no air underneath them. Use your legs like the springs they are, pressing into the balls of your feet to lift your hips. Again, finding downward facing dog. Nice vinyasa. Walk your hands back to your feet for a forward fold. Inhale to roll up and stand strong in mountain pose. Sun salutation A. Let's do that again. Inhale, hands up, reach high overhead. Palms touch, hinge at your hips, dive forward for a fold. Inhale, half lift, hands to shins or lap, flat back. Exhale, fold, lead with your heart, reach toward the floor. Plant your hands, walk them away from your feet. Come to downward facing dog with the option of tabletop. Move through your vinyasa, whether that's a cat-cow cycle, a bird-dog cycle, or by shifting forward now from down dog to plank. Option to bring your knees to the floor. Keep your elbows in close, pointing them behind as you use your hands like springs now, lowering to the floor. Untuck your toes, press into the tops of your feet. Inhale, peel up for cobra. And exhale, peel down. Press into your hands, hips meet your heels in child's pose. Breathe here. Come forward to forearms, tuck your toes, lift your hips for downward facing dog. Walk your hands back towards your feet, forward fold. Inhale, roll up, peel up. Nice work. Now let's find sun salutation B. So adding on to what we've already worked through. Inhale, hands lift overhead, reach tall. Exhale, send your hips down and back as though sitting in an imaginary chair that's slightly too far away behind you. Notice your knees, maybe send them back in space, bringing them a little more over your ankles. If this is hard to do, you can reach out long in front of you with your arms to counterbalance. If that is causing tension in your shoulders or making this effortful in a way that's not supportive, just find prayer hands at chest level. Might feel some warmth in your quads from this chair pose. Go ahead and release, dive forward, find a forward fold, reach your hips toward the sky. Walk your, oh, nope, don't do that. I'm getting ahead of myself. From your forward fold, inhale to half lift. Flat back. Exhale, fold. Now walk your hands away from your feet. Find downward facing dog or tabletop. If you opted for down dog, shift forward to plank. Lower your knees if you'd like. Keep your elbows in close, lower to the floor. Chaturanga. Untuck your toes. Inhale to lift. Peel up for cobra. If you'd like more, keep pressing into your hands until your arms lengthen. And press into the tops of your feet as well, making your legs active, lifting your knees off of the mat. This is upward facing dog. On an exhale, peel and lower everything down to the mat. Press straight up to your plank, maybe with your knees still lowered. And find your way to downward facing dog. Lift your hips, send them up and back. Now press into your left foot, getting grounded there, lifting your right behind. Keep your toes pointed toward the floor. Inhale here. And as you exhale, step forward with your lifted foot. Find a runner's lunge. Take a small step in with your back foot. Send your toes out to the left at about a 45-degree angle. For a little more challenge, you can align your heels as though they're on the same balance beam with those back toes out to the side. If you'd like a little more stability, step out towards the outer edges of your mat with both feet. Once your feet feel like a good foundation, press into both equally to release your hands from the mat. Stand tall, reach overhead, find warrior one. From here, press into your back heel. Your back foot acts like a rudder to help you aim both front hip points towards the front edge of your mat. Reaching high overhead. Take one more breath here. Feeling victorious, maybe. Exhale, bring your hands to the mat. Press into your left foot in the back. Lift your right foot long behind for three-legged dog once more. As you exhale, release your right foot to the mat. Press into your right foot now to lift your left. Toes still pointed towards the floor. If you find they want to spin out to the side, don't lift your leg quite so much. Take a breath in. On an exhale, step forward with your lifted foot. Left in front now for runner's lunge. Take a little step forward with your back right foot, finding the same stability as before. Sending your back toes out at about 45-degree angle, pointed towards the outer edge of your mat. On an inhale, press firmly into both feet. Lift to standing. Arms reach overhead. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, press into your back heel, lengthening your back leg to steer your hip points forward once more. One more breath in, looking at the sun. Exhale your hands to the mat. Frame your front foot. Step back a little more if you need to for your runner's lunge. Press into hands and back foot to lift your left. Find three-legged dog once more. And release your left foot to the mat next to your right. Take a couple breaths in downward facing dog. Shift forward, find your version of plank. Dropping knees if you'd like. Take one more round of cat-cow or bird dog if you're opting for that vinyasa today. Or join me sinking to the mat, keeping elbows in close for chaturanga. Inhale, peel up, find upward facing dog. Pressing into both hands till your arms lengthen. Pressing into both feet so knees lift. Getting a nice stretch in the fronts of your hips. And squeeze your glutes here as well. That helps to open the hip flexors. Peel back down, take a breath. Come back for child's pose. Hips meet your heels. Arms reach forward. Rest in heaviness. Come onto forearms to tuck your toes. Press into hands with active arms. Press into feet till your hips lift. One more downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to meet your feet. A forward fold. You can take opposite elbow and opposite hand again. Don't forget to breathe. And release your hands. On a slow inhale, roll up to standing. Find your firm mountain pose once more. Press into your feet so much that you get a little bit taller. Imagine letting your collarbone smile. Let your hands open up so palms shine forward. Take one more deep, nourishing breath in. And pat yourself on the back for a job well done on day 2. I'll see you for day 3 of Sun Salutations. Thanks for being here.